So this is Caesar XL, and it was published back in 2008 by Victory Point Games, which I don't believe is making games anymore. And it's almost like a desktop published game. I mean, it came in a Ziploc baggy paper map, very average components. Clearly something that was done at a level less than what you see from larger publishers. But don't let the mediocre art and the small footprint fool you. This is actually a really solid game design by Joseph Miranda. And it presents the Roman Civil War in a very playable format. And it treats it as more than just a military conflict. It presents it as a political conflict which has a military component to it for sure. So you're going to have all kinds of battles and things of that nature go on. The shapes of the cities play a role in things, and then the gold value that's next to the cities is a big part of winning the game, either politically or militarily. And it's just a really tight game design. Comes with multiple levels of rules so that you can play the game at a very simple level, and then you can add more to it to make it a little bit more authentic to the history of the period. And it's just a really, really solid game design. It's one of those designs I wish could have gotten, or maybe it still can get, a bigger box footprint, maybe professional grade artwork and components. This would be great with 1-inch counters and a little bit bigger mounted board, full-size cards, because there's quite a few cards in the game as well. And so as the game how the game works is you draw cards off of a deck. You can draw one card per turn. Now before you do, cards that are a forum card, they're going to be arrayed out in the open for everyone to see. And you can acquire one of those cards at the start of your player turn. And there's usually some kind of condition that you have to meet to get it. And at the bottom there's a reward or an effect that it's going to have, but there's also victory points in one of two ways. There's the populares, which are the raised fists, and the optimates, excuse me. Optimates are the little castles. And the goal of the game, I think, is to get 7 of those symbols. I'd have to double check the rules. But you have to get a certain number of those symbols, and when you acquire them, they're arrayed in front of you face up. And when you have enough of those symbols, you can claim a political victory. You can also gain a military victory by defeating your opponent's supreme commander, having control of Rome, and sufficient control of a number of cities with gold value equaling, or I believe surpassing, 25 gold points. So that would be how Caesar managed to achieve that historically, I believe. There's cards that you'll be able to take in hand. So when you draw a card, if it says forum, it goes here. If it says event, you take care of that, what it says on the card. Other cards are tactics and actions. Like here's an action card that Pompey has right now. And it tells you when you can play that card and the effect that it will have. So this can be used in one of two ways. And so those can be held in hand. The number of cards that can be held in hand is based on the characters. So Caesar can hold up to 4, and Pompey can hold up to 3 cards in hand. Once you've done the card draw, and you've decided whether or not to buy a forum card, then you can purchase using the gold coins that you've collected in your tax phase from previous turns. You can use that to purchase new legions, new allies. You can try to get a city to be your ally that maybe you don't have forces in just yet. Then you get to tax your region. So every place that you control, which either has your troops in it or an ally marker, then you get to collect gold from those cities. And that can be modified by any forum cards or action cards you happen to have in hand that apply to that time period of the turn track. So then once you've done that, you march your units. Each unit or stack of units, they can move to an adjacent space. You can move further by spending gold per unit to move them further with the silver level rules, I should say. And then after all the movement's done, battles are fought. And battles are fought in a really cool way. You put a battle marker down where the fight's going to take place. You array them in 2 opposing lines. Allies fire at each other first. So whoever has the best general, he gets to take the first shot. So one of his units fires, then one of the other guys fires. And you just alternate back and forth. Once all the allies are done, then the legions fire. Once they're all done, then leaders fire, and casualties are inflicted immediately. So there's a kind of an asymmetry to that. And the winner is the last man standing. So you can retreat after the first round, and you collect gold for units that you killed in the battle if you're victorious, because you get to plunder their supply trains and whatnot. There can be a pursuit, so if the defender retreats, the other guy gets to try to pursue with his surviving units. Units that fight in more than one round of battle, or if the opponent retreats after one round of battle, they get to upgrade one of their units from a recruit to a veteran, either legion or ally, and so they get flipped over to their more powerful side. And that's basically the course of the game. You also got to pay gold to have large stacks. There's no limit to how many guys you can have in one space, but if your number of units exceeds the gold value of that space, then you have to make up the difference with your own supply of gold. And that's basically how Caesar XL works. It's a great game, and I really hope someday that this gets a reprint with some nice components. This is a really solid game design. It's one of the very best on this particular topic. It's very playable, and it might look small, it might look simple, but it is a very engaging simulation, retelling of the story of the Roman civil wars in the time of Gaius Julius Caesar and Pompey Magnus, Pompey the Great. So there you go. Just a little look at a game I'm just taking for a spin here.